Chapter 31 of Characters of Shakespeare's Plays by William Hazlitt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Measure for Measure. This is a play as full of genius as it is of wisdom. Yet there is an original sin in the nature of the subject, which prevents us from taking a cordial interest in it. The height of moral argument which the author has maintained in the intervals of passion, or blended with the more powerful impulses of nature, is hardly surpassed in any of his plays. But there is in general a want of passion. The affections are at a stand. Our sympathies are repulsed and defeated in all directions. The only passion which influences the story is that of Angelo, and yet he seems to have a much greater passion for hypocrisy than for his mistress. Neither are we greatly enamoured of Isabella's rigid chastity, though she could not act otherwise than she did. We do not feel the same confidence in the virtue that is sublimely good at another's expense, as if it had been out to some less disinterested trial. As to the Duke, who makes a very imposing and mysterious stage character, he is more absorbed in his own plots and gravity than anxious for the welfare of the state, more tenacious of his own character than attentive to the feelings and apprehensions of others. Claudio is the only person who feels naturally, and yet he is placed in circumstances of distress which almost preclude the wish for his deliverance. Mariana is also in love with Angelo, whom we hate. In this respect, there may be said to be a general system of cross purposes between the feelings of the different characters and the sympathy of the reader or the audience. This principle of repugnance seems to have reached its height in the character of Master Barnardine, who not only sets at defiance the opinions of others, but has even thrown off all self-regard. One that apprehends death no more dreadfully but as a drunken sleep, careless, reckless, and fearless of what's past, present, and to come. Unquote. He is a fine antithesis to the morality and hypocrisy of the other characters of the play. Barnardine is Caliban, transported from Prospero's wizard island to the forests of Bohemia, or the prisons of Vienna. He is the creature of bad habits, as Caliban is of gross instincts. He has, however, a strong notion of the natural fitness of things according to his own sensations. He has been drinking hard all night, and he will not be hanged that day. Unquote. And Shakespeare has let him off at last. We do not understand why the philosophical German critic Schlegel should be so severe on these pleasant persons, Lucio, Pompey, and Master Froth, as to call them wretches. They appear almighty comfortable in their occupations, and determined to pursue them, as the flesh and fortune should serve. A very good exposure of the want of self-knowledge and contempt for others, which is so common in the world, is put into the mouth of Abhorsen the jailer, when the provost proposes to associate Pompey with him in his office. "Abad, sir, fie upon him, he will discredit our mystery." Unquote. And the same answer would serve in 9 instances out of 10 to the same kind of a remark. "Go to, sir, you weigh equally, a feather will turn the scale." Shakespeare was in one sense the least moral of all writers, for morality, commonly so called, is made up of antipathies, and his talent consisted of sympathy with human nature, in all its shapes, degrees, depressions, and elevations. The object of the pedantic moralist is to find out the bad in everything. His was to show that there is some soul of goodness in things evil. Even Master Barnardine is not left to the mercy of what others think of him, but when he comes in, speaks for himself, and pleads his own cause, as well as if counsel had been assigned him. In one sense Shakespeare was no moralist at all. In another he was the greatest of all moralists. He was a moralist in the same sense in which nature is one. He taught what he had learnt from her. He showed the greatest knowledge of humanity with the greatest fellow feeling for it. One of the most dramatic passages in the present play is the interview between Claudio and his sister, when she comes to inform him of the conditions on which Angelo will spare his life. Claudio.
"Let me know the point."
Isabella. Oh, I do fear thee, Claudio, and I quake, lest thou a feverous life shouldst entertain, and 6 or 7 winters more respect than a perpetual honour. Darest thou die? The sense of death is most in apprehension, and the poor beetle that we tread upon in corporal sufferance finds a pang as great as when a giant dies.
Why give you me this shame? Think you I can a resolution fetch from flowery tenderness? If I must die, I will encounter darkness as a bride, and hug it in mine arms.
There spake my brother. There my father's grave did utter forth a voice. Yes, thou must die. Thou art too noble to conserve a life in base appliances. This outward sainted deputy, whose settled visage and deliberate word nips youth in the head, and follies doth mew as falcon doth a fowl, is yet a devil.
The princely Angelo?
Oh, 'tis the cunning livery of hell, the damnedest body to invest in cover and princely guards. Dost thou think, Claudio, if I would yield him my virginity, thou mightst be freed?
Oh, heavens! It cannot be!
Yes, he would give thee for this rank offence, so to offend him still. This night's the time that I should do what I abhor to name, or else thou diest to-morrow.
Thou shalt not do it.
Oh, were it but my life, I'd throw it down for your deliverance as frankly as a pin.
Thanks, dear Isabel.
Be ready, Claudio, for your death to-morrow.
Yes. Has he affections in him that thus can make him bite the law by the nose, when he would force it? Sure it is no sin, or of the deadly seven it is the least.
Which is the least?
If it were damnable, he being so wise, why would he for the momentary trick be purgably fined? Oh, Isabel!
What says my brother?
Death is a fearful thing.
And shamed life a hateful.
Ay, but to die, and go we know not where, to lie in cold obstruction and to rot, this sensible warm motion to become a kneaded clod, and the delighted spirit to bathe in fiery floods, or to reside in thrilling regions of thick ribbed ice, to be imprisoned in the viewless winds, blown with restless violence round about the pendant world, or to be worse than worst of those that lawless and uncertain thoughts imagine howling. 'Tis too horrible. The weariest and most loathed worldly life that age, ache, penury, and imprisonment can lay on nature is a paradise to what we fear of death.
Alas, alas!
Sweet sister, let me live. What sin you do to save a brother's life, nature dispenses with a deed so far that it becomes a virtue.
What adds to the dramatic beauty of this scene and the effect of Claudio's passionate attachment to life is, that it immediately follows the Duke's lecture to him on the character of the friar, recommending an absolute indifference to it. Reason thus with life. If I do lose thee, I do lose a thing that none but fools would keep. A breath thou art, servile to all the skyey influences that do this habitation, where thou keep'st, hourly afflict. Merely thou art death's fool. For him thou labourest by thy flight to shun, and yet runs toward him still. Thou art not noble, for all the accommodations that thou bear'st are nursed by baseness. Thou art by no means valiant, for thou dost fear the soft and tender fork of a poor worm. Thy best of rest is sleep, and that thou oft provokest, yet grossly fear'st thy death, which is no more. Thou art not thyself, for thou exist'st on many a thousand grains that issue out of dust. Happy thou art not, for what thou hast not still thou strivest to get, and what thou hast forgett'st. Thou art not certain, for thy complexion shifts to strange effects after the moon. If thou art rich, thou art poor, for like an ass whose back with ingots bows, thou bear'st thy heavy riches but a journey, and death unloads thee. Friend thou hast none, for thy own bowels, which do call thee sire, the mere effusion of thy proper loins, do curse the gout, Serpigo, and the rheum, for ending thee no sooner. Thou hast nor youth nor age, but as it were an after-dinner's sleep, dreaming on both. For all thy blessed youth becomes as aged, and doth beg the alms of palsied eld. And when thou art old and rich, thou hast neither heat, affection, limb, nor beauty to make thy riches pleasant. What's yet in this that bears the name of life? Yet in this life lie hid more thousand deaths. Yet death we fear, that makes these odds all even. End of Measure for Measure.